$200 a month in coffee money could be hiding the key to a multi-million-dollar future, if you know where to look at least. And today we're diving straight into the rabbit hole that 1,666,000 XRP wallets are already exploring, but almost nobody is talking about. Now this, it might just shock you, but I am not a financial advisor and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile and you could lose all the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. Your investments are entirely your responsibility and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses. And this video today is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Picture this, it's a sticky summer evening, the kind where your Tease shirt, it kind of fuses to the chair, and I'm doom scrolling through crypto Twitter when a post from angel investor turned XRP prophet Armando nearly flings my phone into the ceiling. Now, he flat out claims that tucking away just 10,000 XRP today, roughly the price of an older used Honda Civic, could actually snowball into $2.5 million. Now, my first reaction, a laugh plus a half choked sip of iced tea all over my keyboard. But then the gears started turning. 10,000 tokens. That's big, but it's not whale level impossible. And with only 4% of all XRP wallets even holding that much, well, the promise smelled like a bouquet of, scarcity sprinkled with FOMO seasoning. Now, I grew up in a family where clipping grocery coupons was considered professional sport. So the idea of dangling on the edge of at least 11,101% moonshot punched straight through the skeptic shield. Now, I opened up a spreadsheet, I hammered in the numbers, and the math was ruthlessly simple. 10,000 XRP times $2.23 equals $22,300 today, at least at the point of recording. So multiply that by the hypothetical $250 per token and boom, $2.5 million. Now the spreadsheet, it didn't laugh, it just grinned back with green cells like a mischievous leprechaun saying, could happen. But let's pump the brakes and talk about the challenges, because here's the uncomfortable truth that most moon tweet threads gloss over. Stacking 5 figures of any coin is tough when you've got rent, fuel, and last week's impulsive NFT, that are already nibbling at the paycheck. Now, according to the XRP rich list, more than 5 million addresses sit on 500 XRP or less. That's an entire stadium nosebleed section then, waving down at a few thousand wallets from the VIP floor. So if you're in those bleachers right now, it can feel like the velvet rope is, welded shut. So how did I, an average keyboard jockey, even flirt with the idea of joining what 𝗕𝗪𝗪 and Armando, I should say, calls the 10,000 or 10K club? Well, first I set a ridiculous game. Every victorious swipe of my debit card, needed a justification memo. And yes, like the office expense approval forms that we all well ignore. Let's skip the $6 latte. That's 2.69 XRP right there. Axe the late night food delivery surge charge. And that's another 3 tokens, rescued from the claws of convenience. Scoop up discount grocery staples or, coupon codes, and well, XRP dividends hides in plain sight. Now, it wasn't glamorous, but within 6 months, my wallet balance no longer looked like a rounding error. And then came the plot twist. Javier Marks, a data-obsessed analyst who treats Fibonacci levels like bedtime stories, echoed the very same eye-popping $250 target within, get it, this cycle. Now, if you have hung around crypto long enough, you know that the word cycle can morph from 4 letters into a 9-stage emotional roller coaster: disbelief, hope, euphoria, denial, anger, depression, research binge, quiet stacking, and of course, if you time it right, vindication. Now, Marx, of course, argues that fresh liquidity, potential ETF chatter, and cross-border payment scaling could rocket XRP's market cap to $15 trillion. That's right, that was trillion with a T, like the kind of GDP of a G7 country kind of strapped to a jetpack. Is it probable? Maybe not. Is it possible? Ask anyone who told you in 2013 that Bitcoin would never burst through $1,000. Oh wait, the very same single BTC that's roughly $105,000. It might actually be a little bit more at the point of recording. $107,000, today. And of course, you've got ARK Invest that says $2.5 million per coin isn't outlandish by the early 2030s. So, you've got some of these analysts that kind of lumps all of that into his kind of grand $2.5 million portfolio thesis: 1 Bitcoin, 50 Ethereum, and 10,000 XRP. Same finish line, just a different kind of racetrack. Okay, so it's time for a personal anecdote break. I once lost an entire Bitcoin in 2017 because I tried to get fancy with leverage alt trades on a shady exchange whose logo looked like clip art from Windows 95. Poof, gone in a flash crash while I was asleep. Now that kind of sting rewired my brain. Simple accumulation beats adrenaline trading 9 out of 10 times, in my opinion. So when I compared holding 1 BTC versus 50 Ethereum versus 10,000 XRP, my gut says diversification might just save the day, but concentration might just change your life. Now, here are some hard stats to kind of chew on. Now, of the kind of 6.5 million total XRP addresses, only 166,170 of them hold between 10,000 and 25,000 tokens. That's a smidge over 2.5% of all wallets. Meanwhile, of course, 159,509 wallets sit between 5,000 and 10,000 XRP. Now, one solid kind of paycheck or market dip away from that kind of elite status. So if you kind of think about it, that's like kind of every kind of seat in 2 professional football stadiums holding the keys to generational wealth while the entire population of Los Angeles watches from the parking lot. And I hear you, what about the whales? They're practically running the aquarium here, right? That's kind of why retail investors often feel like they're kind of the stomping around in flippers while kind of the great whites do laps. Yet, great whites, they can't corner every single sardine. So, if enough small wallets coordinate through education and discipline, well, the whole supply-demand dynamic shifts. And that's exactly why I keep inviting viewers into our free educational Discord server. The link, of course, is in the description, because information is the great equalizer here. In there, we kind of dissect on-chain data, exchange flows, and even psychology hacks to ditch the panic selling habits. Still, speculation is useless without execution, right? So I laid out a strategy I called the lazy ladder, right? Instead of FOMO kind of buying 10,000 XRP at one caffeine fueled click, you actually break it down into weekly kind of buckets. Now, for me, it was every Friday after my paycheck hit, right? So stoking away, whatever kind of didn't break the essentials bills, right? Some weeks it was, 20 tokens. Other weeks it was 200 tokens, right? 12 months later, you wake up, you scroll through your ledger, and you realize that the mountain grew while you kind of binge watched sci-fi shows. Now, of course, risk management screamed in my ear the entire time. What if the SEC springs a fresh lawsuit surprise? What if the cross-border corridors never hit mainstream? And that's kind of where exit strategy matters, right? Now, Armando himself says once the kind of scoreboard flashes 2.5 million, cash out and buy boring stuff like real estate. Why? Because a roof over your head doesn't depeg overnight. Plus, you're kind of safe, those kind of safe 3 to 5% yield assets that he kind of taught. They aren't sexy, but they do pay property tax and groceries without giving you a heart attack at 2 a.m. Now, speaking of grown-up moves, let's talk about Blofin, right? Now, this is the crypto exchange that's actually built for the adults who like a clean interface and transparent fees. Yes, full disclosure, the Blofin link below is an affiliate link that supports the channel. It's why when you started this video, there was that little pop-up that said that this is sponsored content. Not because Blofin have paid us, but because we have those affiliate links. So if you're opening an account anyway, using that link actually sends a few Satoshis my way to kind of fund more caffeine-driven rabbit holes like this one here. More importantly though, Blofin's advanced risk panel is perfect for tracking whether your kind of shiny stack creeps too far into portfolio or obesity territory, or whether or not you need to stack a little bit more. So there's some great tools and it's well worth exploring, whether you use that link below or not. Now, the narrative climax here, right? One random Tuesday at, let's say, 5:32 a.m., my phone kind of lit up with a price alert. XRP had spiked to $5.45, minutes before, Asian markets even opened. Only $5. Now, nowhere kind of near that mythical 250, but high enough that I caught myself calculating condo down payments instead of pouring cereal. Now, this is all hypothetical, of course. Now, I would be pacing my living room, like a kind of contestant on a game show, finger hovering over the sell button. And that is when that inner monologue does actually hit. Let's call him Rational Me, piped up and says something like this. Remember the plan, he says, right? Stairs up, elevators down, diamond hands optional, but strategic exits are mandatory. So I kind of offload a sliver at that point, just enough to kind of cover my initial cost basis, then let the rest ride. Now, psychology hack achieved. House money feels lighter in your pocket. And it's moments like that kind of hammer home why clear rules beat raw emotions every time. If we kind of ever flirt with the kind of $250 price target, you'd better believe that you've got a tailored, sell ladder ready, right? Because 50% sold at $50, another kind of 30% sold at $125, and the last 20% maybe sprinkling somewhere between $200 and $250. If the elevator, keeps going, great. If it kind of stops at the floor of $60 and plunges, at least you kind of at least the kind of mortgage got funded, I guess, right? And yes, converting a kind of chunk into rental property that kind of yields 4% annually may sound dull, but dull buys freedom nonetheless. Now, you might be asking, right, what about Bitcoin and Ethereum in this $2.5 million fantasy trifecta? And it's a great question, right? One Bitcoin already feels like a mythical creature for most newcomers. Yet, as 𝗕𝗓𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗘 swears by a potential $2.4 million price tag, that one coin's dream starts to echo, 𝗕𝗓𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗘's kind of thesis, right? 50 Ethereum, on the other hand, seems more accessible until you price check and you see that you're still kind of dropping in 6 digits today. Now, both are very valid roads, but they require heavier entries tickets, right? And patience measured in dog years. Now, XRP's lower unit price psychologically tricks the brain into believing that the mountain is, in fact, climbable, which might be why its kind of community rides harder than a roller coaster full of espresso-fed toddlers. But let's zoom out to a macro here, right? A $15 trillion XRP market cap sounds cartoonish until you stack it against traditional finance. Global equities, they hover around $100 trillion. Global real estate, north of $300 trillion. Suddenly, $15 trillion doesn't feel so alien, especially if you believe that tokenization of money flows is the inevitable final boss of fintech. Now, the challenge, it isn't actually mathematical, right? It's regulatory and technological, right? We've already kind of watched PayPal launch stablecoin rails, and central banks, tinker with CBDCs like kids with chemistry sets. Money wants to travel as fast as TikTok dances, and blockchains are doing that and are in fact the dance floor. But back to the practical side, right? If you're inches from that 10K threshold and wondering whether to sprint or to stroll, remember the tortoise eventually passes the hare, right? The everyday victories, skipping fancy brunch, right? Swapping brand name sneakers for last season's sale, it sounds mundane until you tally them into a ledger. Then they kind of morph into digital soldiers, adding weight to your war chest. And each new soldier multiplies the compounding potential if the speculative fireworks do in fact ignite. But let me throw a curveball. What if XRP never sees triple digits? What if it caps out at $20? Right, 10,000 tokens will fetch you 200 grand. No small potatoes. Now, that's kind of a college degree for kids. It's seed money for a business or an escape hatch from the kind of soul-crushing 9 to 5. Now, the point here is the upside potential scale, right? But downside risk must stay survivable. That's why you diversify into real assets once you kind of crest life-changing numbers. Your concrete floors and brick walls, they won't rug pull. And this is where the community aspect saves the day once again. Inside our Discord, again, free link in the description down below, we run realistic and reality checks, right? Looking at macro indicators, whale wallet movements, and sentiment analysis to decide if, hopes are outrunning fundamentals. It's easier to kind of slap a sell button when $20, thoughtful kind of peers, at least 20 kind of thoughtful peers, I should say, say $20 is the way to go. And they say, yep, time to trim, right? Now, the collective wisdom, it kind of beats a lone wolf anxiety every single time. So what are my key takeaways after months of living and breathing this 10K kind of hypothesis? Well, first, scarcity is, that sneaky motivator, but scarcity alone can't fuel value forever, right? Adoption must validate it. Second, discipline outguns dopamine, right? Basically, automatic buys, tiered exits, boring yield assets, they're the real MVPs here. Finally, narrative does indeed matter, right? The human brain runs on stories, and right now, the 10K club to $2.5 million is the blockbuster storyline that could become self-fulfilling, at least if enough players buy the tickets. Now, before we wrap up, let me paint a closing mental snapshot here. Let's imagine that it's 2030, right? You're sitting on a porch that you own, coffee in hand, reading headlines about yacht parties paid with blockchain dividends, right? A gentle kind of buzz on your phone reminds you that rent from your rental property just hit your bank account, thanks to a decision that you made on a kind of humid evening years ago to accumulate 1, 2, maybe even 3 digits of XRP at a time. That's not just a kind of profit figure, right? That's a lifestyle upgrade coded into disciplined choices. And if you're itching to kind of start or refine your own journey, then hop into our Discord. Totally free, jam-packed with tools, tutorials, and plenty of keep it real banter. Plus, if you're kind of setting up a fresh trading account, consider using the Blofin affiliate link that's in the description. It costs you nothing, it helps the channel, and it unlocks some free discounts along the way.